And this makes it really, really hard because, we've seen in chapter 1 that there may be a thing between Keiichi and Rena herself. I think that Rena has a thing for Keiichi as well, which it makes it all the more interesting that Neon is phoning Rena for this. What are Satoko and Rika doing? Like, they are not as involved in these interesting discussions that we're having. Well, not that we're discussing about this to begin with, but, Like, I wonder if they are curious about stuff that may be going on. The effect of only having a light lunch were starting to show, as my stomach began to let out fickle growls. Well, it is okay, because we're going to be having some taste testing. Alright, let's go. To Angel Mort! It's time to face the land of endless desert. Preparations for battle are complete. Tally-ho! Ikuze! Angel Mort had a decidedly different feel to it compared to yesterday. Dessert Festa today. Admittance by reservation only. And nonetheless, the front of this store was being swarmed by over a dozen young men. Judging by how they were looking upwards in jealousy instead of entering the store, they weren't invitees. Invitees? That's something that I have never heard of before. Why would they gather here if they knew they couldn't get in? I found out the answer when I passed through the crowd and began to climb the steps to enter the restaurant. Yes, I am. Now fuck off. We are part of the high class. Move out of the way, peasants. As soon as I said that, I was immediately mobbed. Oi! It was like being in the middle of a football scrum or on a crowded train. On second, in retrospect, it was a bad idea to anger the crowd. We know what kind of restaurant this is. People would be a little bit more dangerous when it comes to this restaurant. They would crowd us. What is going on? The reason was this. It wasn't just one ticket per person. One ticket could let up to 4 people inside. Really now?
そうだったのか。ますますレナや他のみんなを誘ってやるべきだった。
Oh, okay.
親切にありがとう。でも今の話は聞かなかったことにするよ。
With an uplifting smile, I turned and ignored them. When I did, their arms all reached out at once, like the souls of the damned seeking succor. Sorry guys, but my duty as a Grim Reaper is not in effect right now. Sorry.
その4名様までのお供にぜひ俺たちを
I'll make sure to ferry you all over the river Styx like much later, but not right now. What selfish people. And this was the only reason they were crowded in front of the restaurant. Dozens of wretched arms reached out for me like the teeth on a giant rake, and grasped at the air. Oh god. This doesn't help with the stress, goddammit. We don't want to pile up on the anxiety. I was already climbing the stairs to the entrance. Neener. Now fuck off. And this isn't something to joke about. I flew up the rest of the stairs and threw myself inside the restaurant. It was like I had entered a different world. Okay. Just barricade the door and prepare yourself for the worst. I bought my shotguns and the chainsaw. The miserable throng of the damned hurled curses at me from the other side of the glass door. But inside of this completely soundproofed and air-conditioned restaurant, with the angelic smile of a waitress to welcome me, they were nothing more than a refreshing piece of scenery. I knew that I shouldn't laugh, but I began to let out a sinister cackle.
いらっしゃいませ。エンジェルモートへようこそいらっしゃいました。本日はデザートフェスタにつき、チケットのお客様のみの貸し切りになっております。チケットとご方面をお伺いしてもよろしいでしょうか。
チケットはないけど、 名簿に名前があると思います。前原です。
前原あった。失礼ですがフルネームでお伺いしてよろしいですか？
圭一です。前原圭一。
大変失礼いたしました。特別招待の前原圭一様ですね。お席へご案内いたします。どうぞこちらへ。
The mood inside the room was incredibly heated. The booths were packed to the brim. Men in their prime were stuffing their faces with dainty desserts that didn't suit them at all. It was rather an unnerving spectacle. Soon after I was shown to my seat, Shion arrived.
いらっしゃいませ。
Ah. Lovely to see you again, Shion. Couldn't ask for a better hostess.
ようこそエンジェルモーターへ。
よーしよ。今日は本当にありがとうな。世話になりに来たぜ。
ちょっと遅かったから心配しました。でも来てくれて嬉しいです。
It may be because of other customers were around that her tone was less casual, but she still capped off that welcome with her usual brilliant smile.
見ての通り、今日はお客さんがすっごいんで、定時に抜けさせてもらえるかちょっと自信がないんです。私の仕事が終わるまでのんびりしててくださいね。終わったら一緒に遊びに行きましょうね。
For sure. Whispering just the last part into my ear, Shion winked and returned to the kitchen. Maybe it was because the mood in the restaurant was so heated, but Shion seemed a bit lonely. Even a small change in her mannerisms was enough to set my heart aflutter.
お待たせしました。
While I was overwhelmed by the atmosphere inside the restaurant, orders from the new summer menu were carried out one after another. Every single one was extravagantly huge. I get it. You can eat all these amazing things for free. No wonder a ticket was worth its weight in gold. On top of that, all of it was plenty delicious. From dishes with a general appeal to insane ones aimed at a specific audience. There were absolutely no gaps in their repertoire.
どう考えても一人で食う量じゃないかもしれないな。まあそれは置いておいて。
It didn't feel relaxing here at all. Probably because the fervor inside the restaurant was clearly abnormal. All the other booth seats were crammed with groups of four. Sleazy men were gorging like pigs on cutely decorated desserts. And it wouldn't have been a surprise if they started licking their plates. It was more than a little settling. It piqued my interest, so I started listening in on their conversation. And what things I heard.
エンジェルモード萌え。
僕ですか。当選チケットは秘密ルートから7万で購入したつ。
職場には親戚の葬式だと言ったにゃりよ。エンジェルは制服が最高にゃり。
ウェイトレスさん、水とかズボンにこぼしてフキフキとかしてくれないかにゃー。にゃーにゃー。
エンジェルモートのフィギュアが今度発売されるらしいでござるな。次のイベントは要注意でござる。
そうそう、今度大手フィギュアメーカーが商品化を決めたそうであります。発売日は要チェックなのであります。
しかし大人買いするには種類が多すぎるのでごわすな。普通のファミレス制服のフィギュアなら10種類程度でごわすのに、今度のはシークレットポーズ差分込みでざっと100種類。
ダブった時は誰かトレードしてもらいたいでおじゃる。ファンとしては即日コントは義務。いや、君と僕とのディスティニーでおじゃるよ。
The words spitting out of their mouths were pretty much all incomprehensible jargon. Yeah. What lovely people. But I still keenly convey the hidden behind but they still keenly conveyed that hidden behind them was an invisible aura of abnormality.
お待たせしました。次のデザートは南国風シナモンのアバンチュールでございます。どうかなさいましたか？
あ、いえ。なんかこう、今日の店内は雰囲気が違うなと。
うちのお店、その道の方々にはかなり有名らしいんです。まあそういう狙いのお店ですからいいんですけどね。でもイベントの日のお客様はちょっと濃いめの方が多いんで困っちゃいます。
Well, we will wish you the best. In that case, the waitress informed me quietly with a wry smile.
なんかお客の人たちも血走っててハイエナみたいですよね。今日のお客さんのほとんどはかなり遠方から無理してきてるみたいですからね。そういう方々ってハメを外しやすいんでちょっと怖いんです。ちゃんとガードを固めておかないと大変なんですから。
You know well. You should be careful. What does she mean by keep your guard up? Nope. At the moment, a large crash resounded through the room. I turned around, startled, to see that the waitress had fallen down and spilled the order she was carrying right onto a customer. Wait, isn't that Shion?
すみませんでした。そのお召し物は、
なんてことするにゃり。某ジーンズ専門店で1800円もしたズボンが生クリームでベトベトにゃりよ。
What the hell is that? For somebody who just met with disaster, he seems awfully happy. Oh boy.
これはひどいですにょ。ウェイトレスさんが精神誠意ふきするしかないでござるにょ。
The conversation suddenly veered off in an odd direction. Hey, what did he say? Wipey. Did he want Shion to wipe him down? Oh boy. Right over that obviously barren tent he had pitched over his crotch?
でもその
ふき
The wipey chant quickly spread throughout the room. Totally cornered, Shion went pale. She looked over to a more experienced waitress for help, but was only met with a head shaking out of pity. Okay, you know what, Keiichi? This is that time. This is that time to pay back all the offer that Shio had done for you. It's time for you to be her savior.
園崎さん、足を引っ掛けられたんですね。ああやってわざと衣服を汚させて絡んでくるお客が最近多いんですよ。
足を引っ掛けてだって？じゃあ今のあれも事故じゃなくて恋？
メインの女の子は十分気をつけてますから絶対ああはならないんですけど、園崎さんは短期バイトだからまだガードが甘くて、今日のお客様たちにも早々に見破られちゃったみたいで、朝からあんな感じで絡まれてるんです。
店長とかは何やってんだよ。あんな不良な客は追い出せよ。
We're in the service industry, so there's not much we can do about it. She laughed as she said that in an resigned tone. Shion trembled uncontrollably with a dishcloth in her hands as she turned bright red. The man who had been doused in frosting splayed out on the bench, putting the cream-covered tent over his crotch on full display. Still mentally unprepared, her trembling hand inched forward, goaded on by onlookers.
さあふきするでござるよ。
From my male point of view, it might have been a ridiculous spectacle I could just smile right at, but from one's point of view, this was obviously pure humiliation. When I was trapped by those thugs and had been paralyzed with fear, Shion fearlessly stood up to them and saved me. Still, as humiliating as it was, Shion was also partly to blame for this. And it wasn't as though her life was at stake, right? Even these guys, they're just going to jeer at her in a bit of a lewd situation. It's not like they were going to eat Shion alive or anything. It'd be alright if I just consult her afterwards. No, no. Be the hero here, Keiichi Maebara. Be the hero. さらに向こうへ。
私だって怖かったですよ。でも他ならぬケイちゃんのピンチだし、勇気出して頑張りましたってことです。
When I, a man, was being assailed by 3 thugs while paralyzed with fear, Shion saved me without a second thought. What about now? These sleazy, filthy degenerates were trying to pin the blame on Shion. This time, our roles were reversed. Hey, Keiichi Maebara. If you don't save her now, when will you be able to repay the debt you owe her? You scared, Keiichi Maebara? Chicken? At that time, Shion, no, Mion, didn't show a hint of hesitation. Then what about now? I'm not hesitating. Then what? If you're not hesitating, then why aren't you helping her?
Sa, 観念するでござる。ほほほ。
やかましいぞ重量オーバー。俺の目が黒いうちに出て失せろ。
I grasped Shion's shoulder firmly and pulled her behind me.
ケイちゃん。
そのスタッフが世のオズボンに粗相したのでござるよ。
お仕置きが必要なのはてめえの方だ。
How about you change your diapers instead, like in the bathroom? It's like right around the corner. You go and do that instead.
男なら能書き吐くな。腕で物を言ってみろ。
The hell! Smash! My body Detroit smash. My body was lifted into the air like nothing. I was thrown right back into my own seat. This guy is strong? No matter how you look at it, Athletic and this Lardo aren't even in the same area code.
オタクは意外にマイナーな武道を得得していることが多いでござるから甘く見ると大変でござるよ。
Oh. So you're reaching that level, eh? That level of a weeb. The man smirked, showing off his gum line.
ケイちゃん、大丈夫？
Damn it. How lame must I look right now?
シオンは足を引っ掛けられたんだろう。向こうが悪いんだから突き上がらせることなんかないぞ。
そうだけど、でもやっぱり悪いのは私だし。
Nah.
もう一度だ。行くぞ。
Snap, thought, crash.
これくらいでへこたれるケイチ様だと思うなよ。もう一度だ。
Whack, snap, funk.
口ほどにもないでござるの。
まだまだ。
Come on, give it at least like 8% or something. Rise, my will to fight. Not just running. I planted every one of my steps firmly as I closed the distance with the lower ball. Each time I dripped my foot off the floor, I could feel my burning spear flare up from the point of impact. Everything slowed down like I was walking underwater. As I stepped forward in that viscous flow of time, I calmly measured the gap between us. With our difference in height, reach was my ultimate advantage. There was an ever so tiny distance between us, where only my punch would be able to reach. I unleashed my iron fist of righteous anger, but it flew towards his face slowly, like I was punching underwater. Reacting to that, with a smirk on his face, the fatso easily slipped inside of my punch. I hadn't realized it until now, but in this mired time, I was able to observe his baffling counterattack with almost painful clarity. His arm slowly swung around in a large windmill motion, wrapped around my whipped punch, and descended in an arc. The arm swung around like the arms of a clock, and came into contact with my head, twisting my upper body around. Oh no! Dragging my head along, he followed through with another rotation. This time he rotated his entire body like a top, followed by another rotation. Combining defense and offense, it was a brilliant counter. That's right, 3 times. I was thrown after 3 rotations, I think. In this viscous region of time, I was unable to struggle. I could only wait dumbstruck until the moment I was thrown. The moment I was. That sluggish temporal anomaly abruptly ended. Crash!
修行が足りないでござるよ。ヤングメン。
Yeah. I was loath to admit it, but against somebody trained in martial arts, I couldn't win through force of will alone. It's almost as if each time we punch him in the guts, like that chunky fat of his, he's storing his energy. And you gotta be prepared for like a devastating attack with that stored energy. After my consciousness faded in a wave of dizziness, when I came to, I was lying down in my own seat.
怪我しなくてよかったですね。
The more experienced waitress from before wiped the sweat from my brow with a towel. While she was doing that, a red-faced and teary-eyed Shion charged over.
大丈夫ですか？私なんかのために。すみませんでした。
We were trying to pay our debt, after all.
俺こそ役に立たなくてすまん。
No worry.
俺喧嘩って勝ったことないし。
私のために助けに来てくれただけで嬉しかったです。本当ですよ。それだけでも今日はケイちゃんに来てもらえてよかったかなって。
Nah, you bet. When she said that, she stuck her tongue out easily. She wiped off the whipped cream with the washcloth she was holding in her hands.
園崎さん、R 入ってもいいですよ。あと 1,2 時間でしょ。いいんです。バイトとはいえお給料もらってる身ですから、時間内はちゃんと働きたいんです。だから本当お気遣いなく。
She couldn't even put up a brave front. I would never even think for a second that Myeon could be that weak. This was Shion, and she had been harassed by some unreasonable riffraff. That was reality.
ケイちゃんは気にしないでデザートいっぱい食べててくださいね。一通り食べ終わったらアンケートを書いてもらいますので。じゃあ私ホールに戻りますね。
Alright, well, you do that, Shion. After some consoling words and a sympathetic smile to Shion, the other waitress started to head back to work. That's where I stopped.
すいません、ウェイトレスさん。電話借りたいんですけど。
電話ですか？レジ横にございますよ。ご案内いたします。
I pulled a 10-yen coin from my wallet. This wasn't about saving face. My being a worthless coward was an unchangeable fact, but I could just cry myself to sleep about that later tonight. Now is not the time for tears. I had to fight.
確かチケット1枚で4人まで OK なんですよね。あと3人呼んでもいいんですよね。
ええ、そうですけど。
Oh?
一応名簿に書きますので、お名前を伺ってもよろしいですか？
I turned around and glared at the greasy hooligan who subjected Shion to that humiliation. There are 3 things that aren't working in your favor today, punk. The first is that I owe Shion. The second is that I'm a man who is not afraid to throw away his pride to win. And the third is that we are the most powerful club members in history.
名簿にはリュウグウレナ、 それから北条聡子、フルで理科で。
Yeah, I guess so. Time to bring in the reinforcements. Also, oh my god. Like, the cosmic coincidences that we have over here. Like, okay, you can bring up to 4 people. These are the rest. Obviously, you're not gonna choose Mion because, well, you're thinking that they're one and the same person, so yeah, there's that.
かしこまりました。受けたまわります。
I'll have the best and most powerful club members join the fray. They can bring down 1,000 foes. You fat asses! Prepare to meet your maker!
いいお店だね。制服かわいい。レナも着たい。しかもデザートまでおごってもらえるなんて僕は大感激なのです。
ああ、好きなだけ食ってくれ。俺の分なんか気にするな。
ケイイチさん、茶番は結構でございますのよ。要件に入ってほしいですわ。
Then Ariakey put down their forks when Satoko broached the subject. After looking at him for a few moments, I pressed my forehead firmly into the table.
頼む。俺の不甲斐なさを笑ってもいい。力を貸してくれ。
The 3 of them seemed surprised by the sudden turn of events, but nevertheless listened to what I had to say without making fun of my unusual behavior.
どうしたのかな。何があったんだろう、太郎。
We tease each other, we bully each other, but when we need the help, we are gonna be serious about it.
実はミオンの妹のシオンがこの店でバイト中なんだ。
ああ、話に聞いてたみーちゃんの妹さんだね。ひょっとしてあれかな、あれかな。
Yeah?
似てるね、似てるね。似てるも何も髪を下ろしただけの本人ではありませんの？
Yeah. Yep. I didn't know what to say.
ケイイチがシオンだと言うからシオンなのですよ。
If Keiichi says that's Shion, then that's Shion. Okay. A random thought occurred in my mind about the will of a person creating reality. If a person wills, it's like if a person wills it so much, it will turn into a reality. Whereas before it was something completely different. Now we've done it. Before they were actually 2 people, and now because of Keiichi, now they morphed into 1. That Mion is now Shion forever. Yeah.
いくら双子だってあんなにうり二つになるもんなんですの？
Maybe we can go a little bit narratively speaking when it comes to writing this, but we're not gonna go that route. At least not yet.
一卵性双生児って言ってね、本当にそっくりの双子ってこともあるんだって。
Rena gave the most plausible explanation, so everybody else was convinced.
納得してもらえたかな。それで本題だ。
I recounted everything that had just happened. How Shion was targeted, how she was antagonized by the customers, and the humiliation that was forced upon her. Also, how incredibly pathetic I was. I included everything without trying to hide it.
それはひどいね。しーちゃんかわいそう。しかしそれを助けられないなんてみっともないにも程がありますわよ。
それについては返す言葉がない。
さとこちゃん、負けを認めて助けを求めるのってとっても難しいことなの。ケイイチくんは変なプライドなんかよりしーちゃんを助けることを選んだんだよ。ふん、情けないですこと。
Rena's follow-up stung a bit, but I can only be thankful that she understood. Satoko was calling me all sorts of names, but there were no malign intentions behind her words.
で、僕たちは何をするですか?
Her voice was monotone, but there was a hint of resolve in her words. I replied to Rika-chan's suggested silence in kind, with my own quiet resolve.
まあ、そんなところだと思ってましたわ。圭一さん一人には少々荷が重すぎますもの。
じゃあ、助けてくれるのか?
Yeah, of course they will.
当然だよ、圭一君。私たちは誰がいじめられても助けに行くよ。
I remember when I was cornered by those thugs. What Shion had said about the strong feeling of solidarity in Hinamizawa really began to hit home. I mean, it's not just these three. However, Keiichi Maibara, now is not the time to get choked up with tears of gratitude. Now is the time to fight!
すまん、恩に切る。
一人で頑張ったけど、歯が立たなくてかわいそかわいそです。
Rika-chan gently pat my hand for me. But there was no mindless pity in the palm of that hand. It was overflowing with a strong, dependable feeling of, leave the rest to us! The pro heroes.
もろもろの都合により、ミオンは参戦できないので、臨時に俺が指揮を取る。作戦内容は、シオンの護衛と敵勢力の殲滅。
敵って誰かな？いっぱいいるのかな？
現時刻以降、シオンにちょっかいを出そうとする全個人、全勢力を敵と認める。交戦規定はなし。報酬は今食ったデザート。質問はあるか?
Everybody had already entered club mode, their eyes peering at the riffraff clamoring around inside the restaurant, like predators stalking their prey from the darkness. I wonder if that reporter that we read about in the news and such, I wonder if he's here as well. Rika-chan held up her hand.
なんだい、リカちゃん。
手加減は必要ですか?
No.
不要に決まってますわ。ミオンさんの妹に狼藉を働く輩に手加減なんか不要ですの。いいんですね、ケイチ。
Rika-chan was serious. She was really ready to pretty much murder someone. I'm counting on you, Rika-chan.
全責任は俺、前原圭一が取る。蹴散らしてやれ。
よーし、レナも頑張るぞ。
すまん、よろしく頼む。
圭一さん、そんなに力まなくても大丈夫ですのよ。まあご覧あそばせ。圭一さんがそのパフェを食べ終わる頃にはお掃除は終わってましたよ。ではみんな頑張りましょうですよ。ファイトオーです。
ファイトオーです。Oh! Thus, the most powerful warband the world had ever known, trained by Mion, began to move. I was the oldest, the only boy, and behaved like a leader. But when you consider our club activities, I was by far the most junior member. Individually, everyone besides me had terrifying combat abilities. Everyone besides me had terrifying combat capabilities. If all of them combined their strength to protect Shion, I couldn't even imagine. I was probably about to witness something terrible and awe-inspiring.
園崎さん、7番テーブルにデラックスパフェを5つお願いします。あ、はい。
Shion carried the order to the tables. For Shion to carry all 5 parfaits without wobbling took so much effort that she didn't have the breathing room to pay attention to her feet.
くっくっく、どうしよう、また来たでござるよ。
Yeah, of course they are gonna order like so much parfait like again, just so that they can do this trick.
今度はミーのおズボンにぶっかけさせて、一層念入りにふきふきしてもらうにより。
It was the same wipey scheme that had occurred just a short time earlier. This time, another one of them was trying to out for himself. The very depravity of these men was itself a full-out attack.
圭一よりレナへ。5、6番テーブル付近で待ち伏せだ。レナ、聞こえてるか？
お店 制服かいいね。はう、お持ち帰り。
Focus, Rena, focus. Shion, her bottom swing while carrying the parfaits, was being chased by an equally swaying Rena. She was supposed to be escorting Shion, but Rena was instead transfixed by the back of her uniform. From the more spiritual person's point of view, it was probably like having a fox guard her henhouse. When it comes to Rena, things are different.
怪異状態シンクロ率 120%。 勝ったな。
あの状態のレナさんには地球上のどんな物理法則も通用しませんわ。
Shion's legs, unsteady and defenseless, were being targeted by those sleazebacks.
今でござるよ、どうし
世界の輝ける明星にして偉大なる総統閣下万歳。
Okay, I see 3/4 completely separate things right over here. What a lovely sentence. A leg snaked out to trip Shion's defenseless feet. Egads! 3 of them at once? Tap, tap, tap. It happened in an instant. The 3 fools writhed in pain as their legs bent at unnatural angles. Holy mother of God! Like Rena just snapped some ankles here.
これは何事でござるか。
Rena teetered into them and gave them a warning.
おいたはダメなんだよ。目だよ、目。レナがお持ち帰りするから
この小娘、神妙な技を。
And the human scum clutched at their bruised ankles as they passed out.
さすがはレナさん。いつ見ても恐ろしいキレですわね。
ああ、絶対的なガードだ。半径2メートル以内で行われるシオンへのあらゆる攻撃をレナは完全なカウンターで粉砕する。
As Shion was making her rounds through the restaurant, there were people here and there collapsing with welts on their legs or hands. Uh-oh. Collateral damage. I think that she's out of control. Isn't she?
はう、レナよりケイチ君へ。もうしーちゃんにちょっかい出す人はいないよ。
You just murdered the entire restaurant.
だからもうお持ち帰り。
ケイチよりレナへ。ご苦労だった。引き続き護衛を続けてくれ。それからお持ち帰りは不可。繰り返す。お持ち帰りは不可。
じゃあ見てるだけだよ、見てるだけ。はう。
I guess just looking is fine. That wouldn't prevent her from guarding Shion, so I guess it's okay. Anyway, thanks to this, I knew who had tried to mess with Shion. Anybody who was clutching at their arm or leg while they were writhing in agony was basically branded by their bruises.
現時刻をもって敵勢力識別を完了。次のフェーズへ移行する。ケイチよりサトコへ。そっちはどうなってる？
サトコですわよ。どうなってるとはひどい言い方でございますわね。ケイチさん、私を誰だと思っておいでですの？
Satoko was in the kitchen. She had spread open a sketch of the restaurant on the corner, replete with ordered chits and their destinations, and was now sorting through the freshly made desserts.
ちょっとさっきから何をしてるの？
Is she gonna poison the food?
まあまあ、園崎さん、いいから彼女に任せておいて。それよりもこのオーダー全部一度に行くからお願いね。
The veteran waitress was briskly directing her juniors as the trays went out one after another. All the desserts that had passed through Satoko's hands were delivered at once.
はう、かわいいデザートがいっぱい来たよ。はう。
分かってるだろうが手をつけるなよ。自分の身が大事なら。
わかってるけど。はう。
Certainly, they were all incredibly cute-looking desserts. They were all works of art that you could enjoy before even taking your first bite. However, since Satoko had meddled with them, they were nothing more than an unpredictable danger. Blissfully ignorant of that fact were the men now stuffing their faces. Almost right away, they realized that something was wrong.
サトコ、何を混ぜた？塩やタバスコってわけじゃないだろ
あら、圭一さんが言ったんですのよ。手加減無用って。私、こう見えても叩くときは徹底的に叩く性分でございますの。
Yeah, typical rat behavior. And she said that she twirled a dubious file in her fingers, before putting it away smartly into her pouch.
サトコより理科へ。お客様が行きますわよ。エスコートお願いしますわ。僕にお任せなのです。
Come to think of it, I didn't see Rika-chan anywhere. Could she be lurking? Clatter, clatter. Several men stood up suddenly from their feet, surveying the restaurant for something. That restless fidgeting, and a look of relief when they found a single placard hanging from the ceiling. Written on that placard was the word restroom. They began a mad rush in that direction. It wasn't just one or two people. All the people that were branded as the enemy were standing up from their seats while clutching at their stomachs. Oh, what did she do? Did she break the toilets?
さすがにがっつきすぎたでござるよ。お手洗いはどこでござるか？
僕もにゃりよ。オープンでなくクローズドの方でござる。ようリプレイ外しにゃり。
おトイレはどこにゃ？見つけたにゃ。緊急発進スクランブルにょ。
I felt dirty just thinking about what Satoko probably did to their desserts. The problem was how to follow this up. I was intrigued, so I followed the rush of men to the restroom. The narrow hallway connecting to the restroom was crammed with about 10 men. As I peered over to see what was happening. Whoa! It seemed that the toilet was clogged and backflowing, unleashing a loud gurgling sound and a terrible stench. There was no way to use it in this state. Damn that Satoko. What a frightening display of power. No, this wasn't Satoko's doing. It was divine punishment. Yeah, they were just unlucky. Divine punishment done by the shrine maiden herself, Rika Furure. I'll just apologetically ask one of the employees here to clean it up.
これでは尿が出せぬでござる。
どうしたものにゃりんか？毎同士。
It was a brilliant combination of traps. But it would be better if there were more. It would be better if there were one more push to the kicker. Seeing as it was Satoko, she wouldn't have overlooked that.
こうなっては最後の手段に。
Faced with a moral dilemma, that man only had one other option. Women's restroom.
さすがに女子トイレはまずいでござらんか。今日のお客さんに女子はいないにゃりん。コロンブスの卵でにゃりん。
はあはあ、背に腹は変えられぬ。
What a brazen bunch they are. The men, sweat now pouring from their brows, made a mad rush to the girl's room without any hesitation.
Me?
With that one simple me, she destroyed these men's brains. Literally, their brains are now blown. There was a girl there. It was Rika-chan. The men stood there, frozen in various complicated poses indicating their surprise. You know, I won't lie, like, a part of me was thinking, well, like I haven't seen Rika in a little bit. We don't really see her physically. Don't tell me that she would be wearing like the restaurant outfit, but okay, luckily we don't see that. It's just Rika here, standing in her normal dress. That's good. I don't want to imagine Rika or Satoko with that dress. Rika-chan also seemed dumbfounded by the sudden turn of events. But the look on her face was strangely perfect. This was all part of the plan as well. You slight dog, Rika-chan. I should never underestimate you.
これまでござるな。まだ待て。
みー
男子便所がちょっとデンジャラスにゃので、ちょっとおトイレをお借りしたかっただけなのにゃ。にゃー。
みー
でもやっぱりいけないことでござるよな。どうし諸君。
Just by having a girl stand there in the restaurant. I never knew he could put up such an overwhelming barrier. There was no way anybody could be brave enough to lift Rika-chan out of the way to try and do their business. This was the most they could do after all. If you were a man in full club mode, for example someone like me, they would plow for Rika-chan without a second thought. Now what are you going to do, you fat asses? The price for tormenting Shion still hasn't been paid.
お困りなら僕が助けてあげてもいいのです。
片付けどござる。してその方法は？
お外のトイレを使えばいいのです。ご案内しますですよ。
それは助かるにゃりん。さあこのままじゃ集団って不根腕状態にゃりん。
Rika-chan, with a pleasant smile on her face, guided them with a casual stride in her step. In this race against time, her slow pace was sadistic torture.
マドマーゼル、そのトイレはここから遠いでござるか？
すぐに着きますです。
She's gonna point them to the bushes. Obeying Rika-chan's directions, they were about to leave the restaurant.
ケイチ君、締めだよ。ビシッと言ってね。
おうよ、任せておけ。
I spread my arms out and blocked them as they tried to leave the restaurant.
何の真似でござるか。このデフコン1の非常時に。
悪人ども、この扉から一歩外へ出ることがどういうことになるか。
それはどういう意味にゃ？
ほら、チケットに書いてあるよ。途中退店無効って。
Ah, so you cannot go back if you are to exit.
どこのおトイレに行くのも自由でございますがね。その扉を一歩でも外へ出たなら二度と戻れませんのよ。
Boom!
覚えてろ。
そんな怖いこと言う人たちを案内したくないのです。
Everybody panicked as Rika-chan began to turn back. They could only figuratively and literally fall in line. All the waitresses also lined up to see them off.
本日はご来店誠にありがとうございました。
アイシャルリターン。
Clank, clank, clank. The bell rang playfully as the door shut behind them.
すまないですわね。爆笑の極みでしたよ。やったね。
Ren and Satoko clapped their hands together.
俺一人じゃ歯が立たねえ連中もメンバー総登場ならまさに一網打尽だな。
この程度の相手なら私たちなら一人でもお相手できましたよ。
Indeed. We do have to thank you for that.
ケイチさんも少しは腕をお磨き遊ばせ。
Shut it! I was loath to admit it, but Satoko was right. Damn it. One day I will be strong enough to be worthy to stand alongside them.
でもみーちゃんの妹さんを守れて本当によかったね。もうこれでいたずらする悪い人たちは一人もいなくなったよ。
素敵な友人に恵まれたわね、園崎さん。
The veteran waitress was also smiling. After the herd was sent packing, and calmed down completely inside the restaurant. Shion was flustered as she glanced between us and the now empty seats.
私のために
Shion's expression was somewhere between happy and guilt-ridden. Her face had turned slightly red as she ran into the kitchen.
わあ、しーちゃんもかわいい。双子なんだね。はう。
Given Shion's personality, there was no way she'd thank us directly. We might have been a bit excessive in our means. I'm glad we were able to save her.
分かってると思いますけど、園崎さん、とても感謝してますよ。私もホールを代表して感謝いたします。
Clap, 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 clap. The applause quickly spread throughout the entire restaurant. Not only the other waitresses, but also the customers that were generally there to enjoy desserts. Everybody was lauding our efforts. Lovely show, kids. Alright. When we had mostly finished eating and were filling out their survey, Mika-chan made her turn.
おお、お疲れ。守備は上々か？ずいぶん遅かったな。
ごめんなさいなのです。帰りに迷子になってしまって大変だったのです。リカちゃんは変な道を通ることが多いからね。よく迷子になるんだよ。
Well, what the heck were you doing? How did she get lost just guiding people to a nearby toilet? Oh, she would. Okay, I guess she was still doing that, okay.
人間誰にも得て増えてがありましたよ。リカにはそんなの負けないような長所がたくさんありますわ。
それもそうだな。さっきの女子トイレのあの表情、役者だったな。
あの時の圭一はひどいのです。自分が彼らの立場だったら僕を弾き飛ばして女子トイレに飛び込むとか考えていたのです。
You telekinetic, like, witches.
また俺、考えが顔に出てたのか。
圭一くん。
あ、いや、そら。